And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good. And God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And God said, "Let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters." And God made the expanse and separated the waters that were under the expanse from the waters that were above the expanse. And it was so. And God called the expanse heaven, and there was evening, and there was morning, the second day. And God said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were gathered together he called seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let the earth sprout vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees bearing fruit in which is their seed, according to its kind on the earth." And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed according to their own kinds, and trees bearing fruit in which is their seed, each according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. And let them be lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. And God set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. And God said, "Let the waters swarm with swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the expanse of the heavens." So God created the great sea creatures and every living creature that moves, with which the waters swarm according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth." And there was evening, and there was morning, the fifth day. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth living creatures according to their kinds, livestock and creeping things, and beasts of the earth according to their kinds." And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth according to their kinds, and the livestock according to their kinds, and everything that creeps on the ground according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. And God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." And God said, "Behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the heavens, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has breath of life, I have given every green plant for food." And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the hosts of them. And on the seventh day God finished his work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all his work that he had done in creation.
As Gail and I perused the treasures at this particular yard sale, we were in a person's garage, and the host said, "There's a whole bunch more stuff out here in the backyard, some other goods, lots of books." So we made our way through the back of the garage and stepped out into the backyard area, and sure enough, over to the right, there were 2 or 3 blankets laid out on the grass, and there were books strewn everywhere. Now, that is no way to display books. Books belong on a shelf. They need to be in Dewey Decimal order, and if not, at least in alphabetical order. These you couldn't even put in categories. Now, you and I know that we are creatures of order. We like order. You walked in here today, and all of the rows are in rows. And had you walked in here and there had been a bunch of chairs just scattered around randomly in this room, you would have been, well, if not upset, at least confused. What's going on? We like order. We've all had the experience of walking into the grocery store and they went and moved the stuff around. I mean, it's just not right because we like order. Now, some of you are sitting there saying, yeah, you don't know me very well. I like spontaneity. You know what spontaneity is? Messing with order. Normally, you live an ordered life, but every once in a while, you break out of that, and we call that spontaneity. But you can't have it if you don't have order. We like order. And that's the nature of the text that you just heard read, is order, rhythm, cadence, sequence. Now, before we go there, let me just hearken back a little bit to last week, Genesis chapter 1. Just a bit of a reminder where we're all starting. Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Oh, wait. Probably ought to stop there and ask this question, because I'm guessing that if you're anything like me, the first thing you saw when you heard the heavens and the earth was earth. A globe, a sphere hanging out in space. I mean, you've seen it ever since you were a little kid. It's in all the books. Except they would have not thought that. 1,400 years before Jesus, nobody thought about a globe out in the sky. When he said heavens and earth, well, what's up there and what's down here? It wasn't until 400 years before Jesus that Aristotle even speculated that the earth was round. He thought so because of kind of the shadows that were created. It wasn't until 150 BC that the first globe was actually produced, and there was a philosopher who created a globe because he thought that's what it might look like. In 1492, when Columbus sailed the ocean blue, everybody was hoping the earth was round and they wouldn't fall off an edge. In 1633, Galileo was declared a heretic by the church because he said not only is the earth round, but all of the rest of the planets in the universe circulate around the earth. We are the center of it all. By the way, in the 1990s, they had to put Galileo back in the church because they found out he was right and they were wrong. It actually wasn't until the space age, the early 1950s, before a space rocket and satellite began to send images back of the Earth hanging in space. That's the first time that we actually had empirical evidence that the Earth was a sphere out there in the middle of space. And so when we read, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, don't think earth, don't think globe, because that's not what they thought. That's the challenge of reading this text. We have to constantly be reminded that this text was not written to us. It was written to the ancient Near Eastern Hebrews who lived in a completely different context than we do as far as their understanding of science. In fact, the science that you and I practice today and believe in today isn't what it was 100 years ago, much less 1,400 years before Jesus. I was fascinated by a statement that Eugene Peterson made where he likened the situation of Israel when they first encountered Genesis to the fact that it's not all that dissimilar to what our life might be like in the present, because they were probably in the desert. 1,400 years before Jesus, Moses wrote Genesis, and if the people encountered it then, they would have been in the journey from Egypt to the Promised Land, and they'd been wandering out in the desert for 40 years, wondering, where's the order, and isn't this nothing but chaos, and how did we get here, and why don't we go back where there was some order? Or they were exposed to it in exile when they were in Babylon. Think Iran, Iraq, Middle East, dry desert on all sides, and they're in exile and have no home, and they've been displaced, and life is chaotic, and they're wondering where God went, and they get this letter from God. In the beginning, God created order. I mean, that's what he does, right? He creates order. And you and I like order. I'm not the only one in this room who has been frustrated by the fact that I have to get a new map out every day to figure out how to get across town. I mean, I'm almost ready to say, just forget the streets, will you? Except that I'm tired of having my car get swallowed in potholes, so I guess I'll be patient and wait, but I never know what street's going to work. I like order. I want to know how things are supposed to work. That's such a microcosm of the problem, though, right? I mean, any of us can deal with a little disruption in our order if all it means is we're going to be 5 minutes later getting to Dairy Queen. Way too many of us have either heard the phone call about ourselves or we've heard it about somebody else. You have cancer, ALS, there's been an accident, and suddenly the chaos takes on a real personality. And if that won't do it, all you got to do is turn on the news and hear about another school shooting. There's been another drone strike. As Peterson says, the world of the Israelites in its disruption and chaos is not all that different than the world that you and I live in on an everyday basis, being filled with chaos and disruption. And here's what Genesis says. Only the Creator God can provide order in a broken world. Only. All of the ancient Near Eastern other texts, and there are lots of them from Babylon and Egypt and other places, they have these crazy creation stories, but in none of those stories is their God above the chaos, above the disorder. And here's the proclamation that Genesis makes. It's not a question about how God did anything. It's the question, who did this? And the answer, God. He's above the chaos, and he creates order out of that chaos. And that's the text. And if you were listening, you heard it. Because it's a text that is absolutely filled with order, with structure, with rhythm, with repetition. And it's all there just to communicate one thing. God is a God of order. And if you were listening down through the text, if you were paying attention as it was read, you began to sense that order. And God said, and it was so, and it was evening, and it was morning. 6 times. And God said, and it was so, and it was evening, and it was morning. This text is full of that kind of rhythm and repetition. The name for God is mentioned somewhere between 30 and 35 times in just this one text. And there are 34 verbs. He created, he made, he blessed, he rested, he called, he said. It just keeps. He brings order out of chaos. It's a fascinating text. Frankly, I just love this text. that he doesn't say it was good on the second day. Let there be light. It was good. Doesn't mention anything about good. But then he doubles up and he says it's good twice on the third day. So you still have all good. Now, if we were able to read the language, which I'm guessing most of us cannot, it would have been like an echo in the reading of the text. Good, good. Now, what decided what was good? Well, we'll this text is designed to communicate not just in words, but in cadence. Day 1, and God said. Day 2, and God said. Day 3, and God said. Begin to sense the rhythm? 1, 2, 3, 3. Same thing on days 4, 5, and 6. And God said, and God said, and then twice. And God said, and God said. Here's the rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. Oh, and though we're not going to cover the 6th day or the 7th day today, we had to have that part read because in the 7th day there are 3 verbs that go with God. He rested, he finished, he blessed. And so now the rhythm is 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 7. And that Hebrew rhythmic cadence said order. God is a God of order. He puts things aright when they have been in darkness all this time. It's a fascinating thing what God is doing in this creating of order. And I'm quite confident, I have absolutely no doubt, actually, that every one of us find that there is a calming effect with order and rhythm. It was one of the most difficult parts of retirement. I didn't have a rhythm. I didn't know what to do on Monday morning. It didn't take long for Gail to figure that out and create one for me, but that's part of the challenge, right? We live with a rhythm. We know what we're supposed to be somewhere, what order this is supposed to come in, and that gives us some kind of rhythm to our life. I mean, it makes sense out of our life. I posted something about that on Facebook a while back, and dozens of people shot back, this is my rhythm, this is what I do, this is how I do things, this is the order that I live in. They find calm about that. There's something good when there is a rhythm every morning at breakfast or every evening around the table or whatever the rhythm is. We find some kind of structure, and that gives us a sense that life is good. But it's not just that God is a God of order and he kind of took this chaos and gave it order. He gave it purposeful order. That's fascinating. Because you see, it comes in two in a pair of threes. There's day 1, day 2, and day 3. And then there's day 4, day 5, and day 6. 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. Now, I'm going to use a word, and I'm a little concerned about it because we think materially. We think like everything that's being talked about here is a thing, and I don't want you to think a thing. And when I say a place, I'm afraid you're going to think of a place. And if I say a sphere, I'm afraid you're going to think of a ball. But what's being created on day 1, day 2, and day 3 is a sphere, a place, a space in which something is happening. And in day 1, there is this creation of light, and there's this separation between darkness and light, and he calls that day. And then he separates the waters, and the waters go down here, and the waters go up there. And in the ancient Near East, there was this clear understanding that there was water up there, but why doesn't the water come down? Because sometimes it does, but but it doesn't. So there must have been some kind of a dome or something that held the rain back and the water up there and the water down here. But no matter what, however you looked at that, it still was not habitable. It was not able to be lived in. You can't live in the sea. You can't live in the sky. And so on the third day, he creates a sphere, a place. He called it land. And the land had vegetation. Now we're getting closer to something that can actually be inhabited. And so you've got day 1, day 2, day 3, and then you come over here, and day 4 corresponds to day 1. And you know what he does on day 4? He takes this day and night thing and he gives it some substance. Sun, moon, stars, sun for the day, stars and moon for night. He structures time. That's what he creates, is time. And a way to measure it. And the text reminds us that this is the place of time and seasons and other things that give us rhythm in life. There's an evening and a morning, and there's a day and there's a night, and we structure our whole life around our seasons. And then day 2, he's divided those waters, but there's nothing inhabitable yet. But on day 5, he fills day 2. He fills it with vegetation, trees and plants, birds and fish. Now things are starting to get more inhabitable, more favorable for human life and flourishing. And on day 3, there's land and vegetation, but on day 6, there are animals, and the plants are food for the animals, and there is the creation of man, and man is given a specific purpose to live in the image of the one who created him. Now, we're not going to deal with day 6 today. Tyler will take care of that next week. We can't help but just mention it because we've got to have that rhythm. We're not going to talk about day 7 today. We'll do that 2 weeks from today, but you got to have that because you got to have that rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 7. Purposeful order. Plants for food, fish in the sea, birds in the sky, and he says it was good. Well, who decided what was good? He did. Do you get it? God's the subject of this whole thing. Let there be light. There was light, and it was good. Let there be land and vegetation, and there was. And God said, it's good. Oh, it's good. 6 times he says it's good every day except the second day, because the second day doesn't really contribute to the human flourishing. But on the 6th day, not only is it good, but it is very good. Good, you see, makes it possible for us to inhabit this place. It makes it possible for humans to flourish. It makes it possible for us to have life, real, genuine, the kind of life that God wanted us to have. And so God looks at what he creates and he says, this is really good. And he decides what's good. He also decides what's not good. Now, we're not going to get into this very much, but we just at least have to anticipate it a little bit, because when he creates humans, he says, oh, by the way, it is not good for a man to be alone. And he creates woman. But you see, he's still the one who defines what's good and not good. Now, we do have to sneak a little bit ahead of the story, and we'll get there eventually. But in order for this to make any sense, we just have to peek a little out there, because you already know. I don't even have to tell you that we messed it up. This good world that God had given us, we blew it. You know why? Oh, think about the story. And Eve saw the fruit, and it appeared to be good for food, and for wisdom about knowledge of good and evil. And suddenly, God is not defining good. Eve is defining what's good. When God defines good, it's all about human flourishing. It's about life. When humans enter the picture and start defining what is good, the result is death, always. And it's still that way, isn't it? When we allow God to define what is good, our lives flourish. When we decide to impose our definition of what is good on what we choose in this life, it always ends up in death, chaos, disruption. See, this text is absolutely clear. Only God can bring order out of disorder. Only God can bring order to brokenness. Oh, but it's bigger than that. Because only God can bring disorder to broken lives. And we've got them. Now, again, we're not even going to go this far in the sermon series, but if you just kept reading a bit further in the book of Genesis, you'd come to the flood story, and God tries it all over again. It's almost exactly the same language, almost exactly the same sequence. It's like a parallel story to Genesis 1 and 2 and 3. And guess what happens? You know what happens. Humans blow it again. We make another mess. And I am so grateful that God did not just give up. There are a couple of texts in the New Testament that are linked to this Genesis text that provide so much hope. Paul says to the Colossian believers, "You have been raised up with Christ. Your life is hidden with Christ in God." That's the first part of chapter 3. And then he says in verse 10 that he is in a process of recreating you into the image of the one who created you in the first place. You hear it? Recreation. We have another word for that we use a lot. It's called redemption. He redeems the broken creation, and he takes the broken pieces of the chaos that we've made out of our own broken lives, and he begins to piece them back together so that we begin to look once again like the one created in his image. And in Romans chapter 8, he says, we have been predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son. There is brokenness everywhere. You have to know that. And we are the ones responsible for causing it. But God, who is the only one who can create order out of that brokenness, is prepared to create order out of your brokenness if you will let him. That's why, always, in this place, there is an open invitation to Jesus. Sometimes it's more explicit than others. Sometimes we actually say, hey, this would be a great day for you to get your life together, but it's always there. We exist for one thing, to help you get back in order, to get your life pulled together, to find the healing that takes the broken pieces and puts you back into the person that God desires for you to be so that you can flourish and really live. We're always here to answer your questions, always here to try to help you figure out what the next move is. We're always here to help you come to Jesus and identify with him so that you can have your life recreated, redeemed. And one of the things that I love about worship is that God has provided us a way to always be reminded of that possibility of recreation and redemption. It's a rather rhythmic experience, isn't it? It has a cadence to it. It has an order. Every Sunday, someplace in our service, you know that we're going to invite you to the table of communion. And there we're going to once again tell the story of redemption. And it has a rhythm. We start with bread. It's just a little piece, but it's symbolic. You see, Jesus had to become human if he was going to redeem the broken humans of creation. And so he did. He took on human form. And at that Last Supper, he held up a piece of bread and he said, this represents my body, which was broken for you. And we celebrate his incarnation and his willingness to sacrifice his body for us to be recreated. And collectively, together, as a whole, as not a bunch of unbroken pieces, but as one collective body, we eat. And at that same supper, he took a cup and he said, this represents my blood, that which provided the redeeming entrance into a new covenant. Every time, he says, that you do this, remember me. You hear the rhythm? Every time, do this, remember me. And so we do today remember him. Father, we realize that we live in a broken world, but that's not new to you. You specialize in creating order out of disorder, bringing beauty out of ashes, bringing life out of death. Only you, Father. We're so grateful for your word, not just for its words, but for the beauty of the way that you composed it, that communicates to us who you are, that you are a God of order, and that you delight in our flourishing. Thank you. Thank you for being so kind to us, so gracious. In Jesus, amen.